Hi and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of July 6, 2020. First, let's do a really quick recap of the predictions of the previous week, the week of June 29. In terms of the stock market, directions they predicted for pretty much every day of past week, except Friday because Friday was a holiday in the US, that the market would go down, and in fact Monday and Tuesday it went up. Wednesday was a mixed results day where Nasdaq went up, then Dow Jones went down, and Thursday the market did go down, as I predicted. Another prediction that I made is this long-standing prediction that is pretty much long-running for both 2019 and 2020, is that we would see some major geopolitical changes, major kind of important leaders passing away, people who were in power for a long time, stepping away or being removed, and also increase in seismic activity and large-scale disasters. So in terms of these kind of events, and yeah, that's was based or is based on the Saturn conjunct Pluto in Capricorn. And in the past few weeks and ongoing also in the next few weeks, we will have, or we have rather, this conjunction also is joined by Jupiter, which has to do with laws, international relations, and also expanding beyond sort of the typical size or, for an issue, for example, or something that previously wasn't seen now is seen, or something that was maybe a change now may become a law, because again, Jupiter rules things like law. And for the past, in the past week rather, we did have, I guess from June 25th through July 1st, there was a national referendum in Russia where they, I guess, accepted some major changes to Russian constitution. About 77% voted in favor. And among, I'm not sure exactly about all the changes, but among, I guess, one of the resulting consequences is that it will allow Putin to remain in power should he so, I guess, desire for additional several terms. And also we had a law passed on June 30th in China, where basically they passed a new security law with various implications, including giving Beijing greater powers to crack down on a variety of political crimes such as separatism and collusion. So again, we do see, of course, this was ongoing, these proposals for like referendum in Russia, and same thing with ongoing, I guess, previously there were riots in Hong Kong, etc. And at this time where we have Jupiter fairly closely, within like 1 degree, transiting closely with Pluto. Pluto means this major large-scale change, and Jupiter brings law into sort of picture. We have these major, I guess, geopolitical changes legalized. And speaking of other representations of like Pluto, also has to do with things that are underground, nuclear power, any sort of like facilities that maybe deal with something that's decaying, old, or recycling, or old fuels, literally burials, or something that's like nasty, disgusting, stinky, deviant, or criminal in some ways, or even terrorist activities, etc. And we did have news along those lines again last week on July 2nd. Ghislaine Maxwell, an accused Jeffrey Epstein madam, was arrested on federal charges that she was helping groom underage girls for Jeffrey Epstein in 1990s. And again, this is along the lines of things coming up that were criminal or illegal, and at this point they can't really stay hidden anymore, and Jupiter makes things kind of either visible to the law or become legalized, or vice versa, they're again punished by the law. We also had similar news related, and that's kind of another ongoing prediction that also was specific to this Pluto-Jupiter conjunction, where I mentioned that from about June 15th through July 10th, and then we will see again this influence come back on November 4th through the 20th. that there would be this increase in news about nuclear power plants, various these hacking, spying activities, anything that was kind of underground or activities that were hidden now may come up, because again, Jupiter will blow them out of proportion. And we did have several news out of Iran. On July 2nd, there was an apparent incident that damaged a major nuclear site in Natanz. Then on the 4th, there was a news about some transformer exploding at a power plant, also in Iran. And on the 5th of July, there was news that Iran said that apparently they built underground, quote-unquote, missile cities along the Persian Gulf Coast. So again, underground being the key word here, and obviously something that's aimed at like destruction or threat, etc. And that's really the Pluto for you. And with the news coming at this time, indeed, one could assume that, and again, other news also coming out of Iran. Obviously, I didn't check the Iran's chart in a while, but when you have these sort of a similar type of news that correspond to an ongoing global transit, chances are there are more than, that there's more than one kind of activity happening to that person or to that country or in a given location at the same time. So when they're saying they have some secret underground things happening there, they're probably not lying about that. And they're probably on a large scale too, because of Jupiter. Jupiter brings things on a large scale, but also Jupiter can make things go overboard, which is obviously not always a good thing. Let's see. And then among other news, for June 30th through July 1st, I mentioned last week that there may be increased news about businesses or products or projects related to communication, transportation, IT, retail, sales, education, in various agreements and negotiations, and that they may be connected to like banks, real estate, and general issues of security and safety, like is it safe to travel, which real estate investments are safe. And there were some news on the 30th of June along those lines, like for example on the 30th of June, European Union barred travelers from US, citing coronavirus concerns, so that most travelers from US would be prevented from entering EU even after it was to reopen, or I guess it has reopened by now, on the 1st of July. Then on the 20th of June, I guess the day before my predictions were specified, there was a outage for GitHub. It went down, obviously IT related. Then also on the same day, on the 29th of June, there was an announcement out of India that the Department of Heavy Industries had come up there with the 5-year stimulus plan to boost auto exports. And let's see, and also, even though it was sort of the opposite direction in terms of the stock market move, on Monday the 29th, market went up, but the reason for it, I guess the stocks climbing, was because of the housing data, which again focus on real estate. So a lot of these sort of topics that I brought up in my predictions did make it into the news. And I guess lastly here, worth mentioning, and that is, I guess, the same prediction that I guess we can repeat this week, is that I predicted for China specifically that there would be 3 waves of either COVID-19 news or waves of some focus on healthcare or these medical kind of research labs, or any sort of research or inventions or vaccines or some innovations or some major decisions related to like healthcare, vaccinations, medical, biomedical research, etc. and various diseases even. And so we did have and the second wave for sort of China predicted would be July 6th or 24th, and the third one final would be in November later this year. And we did have news on the 30th of June out of China that there was some sort of a study that they did, and basically they published it, where they profiled a new flu virus found in Chinese pigs, and apparently that virus had mutated, and now humans can pick that up. And they were basically, researchers were saying that this could be a new pandemic virus become a new pandemic virus at some point. So we did have this kind of a healthcare virus type news out of China right about this timeline, although I have not necessarily heard about a second wave of COVID being, as strong as in some other areas of the world. But perhaps we'll still see that, in the upcoming month. So moving into the predictions for this week, this ongoing influence with, like I said, geopolitical changes, increased seismic activity, and I didn't mention there were quite a few also earthquakes of magnitude 5 and higher in Turkey and Japan and some Tajikistan and some other parts of the world. So we did have fairly seismically, active week. So I expect this to continue through at least like 2020. This, because of many slow-moving, large kind of influential planets going through Capricorn together, that definitely increases seismic activity in general. And this week, this activity would peak on July 6th through 8th. And like I said, that includes seismic activity, probability of some disasters, explosions, and or shakeups at like the tops of the corporations, power struggles at the top of governmental leadership, positions, etc. Then also looking forward, we will start feeling intensified energy. Again, this is more of a month-to-month scale towards the end of July, and I'll get into that in just a second. End of July looks pretty busy, and then we'll get into August, where in August will be also quite a busy month, where we'll see a lot of governmental regulations or controls or embargoes, tariffs, taxes, and or there will be concerns about shortages and delays, cash shortages, or lower than expected earnings, and or some other restructuring shakeups at the top, as well as perhaps either destruction of some. And I guess in the US, I was just thinking, I guess there are a lot of monuments that have been destroyed. Again, this is something that's a large thing that's out of stone or metal, and it's being toppled down. So in August there will be even more of that. And again, this could be both ways of a large building, old building or old structure that's been standing for a long time being toppled, and at the same time there also is a probability of something that's being built. And if something is being built, like a new thing to replace whatever is being destroyed, it actually can also stand for a long time. But in August there will be even more anti-governmental protest, violence, including shootings, fires, explosions, as well as news about corruption, scandals involving government and corporate officials, attacks on governmental or corporate leaders, and basically more of this unstable energy. And let's see, for US, particularly August 13th through 21st seem to be quite significant, and for China, 9th through the 17th. And in the US, the focus may be on things like scandals, bankruptcies, failures, especially related to communication and transportation, travel, social media, newspapers, car manufacturers, car rental businesses, etc. And in China, the focus may be more on healthcare, pharmaceuticals, secretive activities, chemicals, oil, pollution, etc. Then let's see, and as I mentioned already, we had some news out of Iran that kind of fit this prediction, but this is a global prediction, and it also concerns China in particular, where June 15th through the 10th and then November 4th through the 20th may see this increased focus on power plants, nuclear power, nuclear weapons, recycling power plants, shifts in governmental leadership, secretive activities, spying, hacking, underground activities, terrorist activities, and religious activities, but religious in the sense of something that's organized, and one group is trying to prove, I guess, that their behavior, their rituals are correct, and so there may be some either oppression of that, or one group is trying to force their views on some other group, etc. And also there may be increased news of death, rebirth, burials, literally. So maybe another wave, of death, perhaps due to COVID, or just something that's uncovered underground. Could be something exciting as excavating a new, find, archaeological find, for example. So let's hope for something positive like that. coronavirus outbreak. Again, according to like transits to the China chart, definitely there will be still peak approximately, I guess the most intense time actually maybe August through November, and especially November 9th through 13th, maybe like a peak. I'm not sure if it's going to be a resolution, final decision to like close, open, come up with vaccine, or make some sort of a final decision about some, healthcare related to the situation, or reform, or a decision about how maybe research in labs laboratories is conducted, perhaps new implementation of some new safety rules, etc. But there's still going to be this final kind of step to conclude this whole COVID-19 situation, and that November time also overlaps with other sort of significant times and transits to China chart. So definitely this second week to rather November of 2020 would be an important time globally and for China in particular. In terms of oil prices, we will see peak of kind of interest not interest, but rather, I guess, concerns about the value and either shortages or prices being too low or too high. Probably something will be overpriced and the prices may actually fall at that time. At the end of July, especially July 26th to 28th and 27th, which I believe is Monday, may see a really strong market, I'm guessing drop, but either way, strong market move. And there are multiple sort of important transits to also charts of US and China at the same time, also involving something like oil, gas, etc. So definitely look for that at the end of July. Let's see, then moving on to events of this week. I'm recording this actually on Monday at the end of the day. I did post predictions for Monday on Sunday, and then I posted the remaining predictions for Tuesday through Friday, in the late afternoon, I guess, on Monday. So I did see results for Monday, and I predicted Monday to be market down, and actually went up quite nicely, like 1-2%, on some upbeat news about like I think tech companies in the US. And I didn't have time yesterday to do all of it, but I did then sit down and I did see that there's actually a Venus transiting, going over Uranus in US chart, but actually Uranus does rule things like aerospace, IT, high tech, telecoms, etc. And it does indeed bring positive news. And the good news is that it will actually continue to be in place through about the 9th of July. So we will continue having good news for the US in those kind of areas. As I said again, it's like could be power generation, electronic gadgets, aerospace, high tech, IT, telecoms, and the news could be both in terms of like improved profits, but also could be other positive news such as some sort of a green light is given to project to proceed, or there's improved growth, or some just improved easy circumstances for these businesses to operate. Then in terms of the predictions for the stock market, so I predicted Monday to be down and it was up. Then Tuesday through Thursday I'm predicting market to go up, and then Friday for it to go down. In terms of other important influences throughout the week, pretty much the July 6th through the 11th, especially July 8th, there may be increased focus on companies related to like communication, transportation, also like, let's see, anything that's like maybe a car or flying object, an airplane, of course. There may be some arguments or disagreement, heated verbal exchanges, accidents and problems, and it could be due to like literally disagreements. Maybe there's a negotiation and people just disagree about something. Or an accident could be due to like high winds and too much heat. So it could be something like car battery explodes, or something is flying and it bursts into flame, or high wind causes fire. And these kind of fires or explosions or accidents may cause basically danger and cause some harm to like farms, crops, real estate, something that's on the ground, like involves food production, maybe like in a restaurant, or storage facility, or grocery store, anything to do with like food and real estate. And also these accidents windy weather and or fires may somehow be related to this nuclear power, just regular power plants. So for example, like a fire comes close to a nuclear fuel storage or nuclear facility or nuclear power plant, or vice versa. There's an accident and at such a facility like at a power plant, and that it causes in turn fire that spreads because of the wind. So these things can be related, and that's kind of on the entire week, especially the 8th of July. And if there are negotiations, especially those that involve like cars, engines, racing, fighting, sports in general, social media, travel agencies, school, public transport, so anything that moves, this interaction, sales, between, like interaction between groups of people, moving of objects, especially flying or moving relatively fast, these kind of activities may be tense, and there may be, like I said, accidents, disagreements, or conflicts. And if an agreement is reached, like say there's a negotiation about some acquisition or something else like that, then this agreement may be seen as quite one-sided, and so it may not last for a long time because it may a party that has been shorthand, I guess, the party that one of the parties may declare it to be, nulled or something like that, or the agreement may elicit anger because again it will be seen as biased. For US, for the 6th of July predicted minor concerns about banks, financial institutions, earnings, expenditures that may involve delays, slow progress, obstacles created by leadership. I honestly did not see any of that on the headlines for the 6th of July, but maybe I missed that. Another prediction that I made that's specific for US, July 6th through 11th, especially the 7th and 11th of July, that there may be increased focus on things like immigration, laws, judges, lawyers, international travel, international shipments, tariffs, foreign relations, colleges, professors, so all those kind of Jupiterian things, and that may be associated with some concerns, such as maybe disagreements or arguments about laws, about the right approach, like either moral, is this a moral thing to do or is it a legal thing to do? Whose rights, are being, disregarded, or whose rights need to be changed, some legal disputes, or even some moral and religious disputes. All of that may be in focus this week. And it may also involve one of US international partners, where perhaps a partner questions the legality of some agreement or some decision that somehow affects international travel and transportation or legal status of some entity. So possibly this whole thing with whether US citizens can travel to Europe or vice versa, citizens from some other country can or not travel to US or something like that, but it will be involving the legal status, legality of some agreement, or even moral grounds on which some of the decisions are made. Let's see, for US again, July 7 and 8 may see increased focus on various agreements, negotiations, business deals, partnerships, and these actually may be beneficial for US at this time. So if there are any such agreements entered into this time, they may be seen as quite profitable later on, or if there are some previously made agreements on the 7th and 8th, they may be reported as, yielding some profits or going really well, especially if they're related to communication, transportation, IT, high-tech, telecoms, and any of these, even airlines, for example, aerospace, etc. Then for US again, July 7th through 9th may see increased focus on any sort of financial area, or earnings, profits, expenses, again, of the businesses related to IT, telecoms, electronic gadgets, aerospace, high-tech, as well as power generation, like, electric cars come to mind. And again, news will probably be positive, such as increased profits, improved growth, getting a green light to proceed with some project. Then for China, July 7th may also be significant, where there may be positive news about either investments, tariffs, loans, rates, taxes. For example, maybe reported profits. Maybe there was a report about increased profits, or maybe there's a negotiation when China's, is able to negotiate favorable agreement terms, or there's some leader in some Chinese company or government that is able to make some sort of smooth negotiation again to negotiate favorable terms for China. So that's on the 7th. Then on the 8th, like I said before, market I think may go up. It's going to be fairly like a significant day, both in terms of like seismic activity or some major developments, maybe higher than usual stock market move. And there also may be increased focus on gold prices, and possibly due to either some announcements related to monetary policy in the US, or perhaps some other news from the US, either retail sales, communication, or transportation. And I'm not sure what the direction might be. Chances are there's a positive, maybe earnings are up, things are looking good, and perhaps gold goes down on that. So on the 9th through 10th, and that's a global prediction, there may be increased news about topics related to healthcare, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, oil, gas, navy, pollution, movies, religion, drugs, etc. And then finally on Saturday and Sunday, July 11 and 12, I would look for news about some sort of a reversal in a decision that had previously been made, or reversal in a direction in terms of some project is going, especially related to things like retail sales, communication, transportation, or education. So for example, if there's a pending negotiation, a blocked project or block path, something cannot move, like maybe stores are waiting for permission to open, or a travel route is awaiting to be opened, or some car or some phone or something cannot be introduced to the public because it's lacking something, or maybe I'm thinking the Boeing or something like that, there is some sort of permission that's in the waiting, or something cannot be sold because again it's awaiting legal permission. So this may be resolved sometime from the 11th to the 12th of July. So the decision either is overturned that previously was made, or I guess a new decision is implemented that allows something to proceed that previously was blocked. So then for just a couple new predictions for the upcoming, I guess, few weeks that I added to my blog at tolstunka.com. Couple new that are worth mentioning is I looked at China's chart a little bit closer, and 20th or 25th, especially 21st or the 23rd of July for China, may see stressful news related to like negotiations, agreements, sales, communication, transportation, as well as oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, pollution, navy, deception, etc. And the country at that time, the country of China, may perceive itself as being like on the receiving end of some attack, or being accused, or being somebody's angry at them, or they feel like, China feels like they're being rushed into entering some agreement that they may perceive as being too risky, and as probably some sort of financial agreement. And basically there may be this kind of a standoff, or China may be, I guess, unhappy at that time, and so that may also potentially create some concerns in the markets. And then another new prediction for China that's upcoming, again for July 27th through 28th, again end of July looks busy. In China there may be some important announcement or in event that affects large groups of people, or is large scale, kind of has a large, I guess, wide reach, and that may be related to countries' goals and ambition, especially in the area of finance and banking. So it will probably involve things like how do we increase profits, better management of financial investments, regulation of risky financial activity, or some sort of how China would offer financial help or receive, I guess, financial help. So anything to do with like finance, banking, risky investments, and trying to make the risky situation more regulated, or the risky situation kind of more controllable. So something that basically would maybe reduce risk, improve profits, or even actually increase even risky activities, again in order to go after profits. But the strong focus on finance, profits, and risky activity, that would be prominent most likely in the news for China, July 7th through 28th. And then, like I said, both US and China have quite a few aspects, transits happening to their charts right at the end of July, and globally, end of July will have this focus on oil, value of the oil, chemicals, also like Navy and things like that, and pharmaceuticals, as well as healthcare. And so there may be some tensions, and right around the 27th of July there may be a big stock market drop. And before that there may also be, like July 20th through 22nd, there may also be potentially a market drop on July 20th and 21st, and that could be associated with some concerns out of US with either problems with some leaders or some heightened conflicts with international partners. So that's going to be a wrap up for me for this week. I hope you had a great, week so far, and I wish you have the nicest week ever. Enjoy, July in general, and I'll catch you guys later. Bye.